Spendthrift Farm stallions. First 2-year-olds on the track by Golden Sense, Cross Traffic, It's My Lucky Day, Can the Man, and Shaking It Up, including Golden Sense's stakes winner Pickett, a dominant 9-length winner in the $75,000 DS Shine Young Futurity at Evangeline. Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.
Hi everybody, I'm Dan Illman along with Nicole Russo, and welcome to Spa Babies, presented by Spendthrift Farm, the home of Into Mischief, the sire of one of the hottest 2-year-olds on the planet right now, Instagrand, who just ran away and hid from his opposition last week in the Best Pal Stakes. He's now a perfect 2 for 2. He cost $1.2 million, was a sale topper, and is now with Jerry Hollendorfer. Here's the field for Wednesday's Spa Baby race. It's the $100,000 Bolton Landing Stakes, carded as race number 9 at the Spa. We're going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. Nicole Wesley Ward has entered the 3 Shang Shang Shang, the 4 Chelsea Cloisters, the 8 Stillwater Cove. These 3 fillies all returning from Europe, and they're also cross-entered in Friday's Skidmore Stakes. It's way too early to tell, but if I had to guess, maybe Shang 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 opts for a shot against the boys on Friday.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, she's certainly, proven that she can run at that level. I'd imagine the connection's also watching the weather a little bit with some of these. Saratoga, of course, plagued by wet weather throughout the meet. So we'll see what happens. Of course, we're filming this before all of those decisions are made. So take that into account as you're handicapping the races.
We'll take the field in post-position order, beginning with the number 1 Avocado Toast. This is a daughter of Big Drama who did not pick up her feet in 2 starts on dirt, but she switched to the turf and took it like a duck to water. We're going to take a look at her race at Monmouth right now. She showed big speed and she just kept right on going. This was a major performance for a filly who might have found out what she wants to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe that she beat a next out winner there at Monmouth, really improved when switched to the turf. She's by champion sprinter Big Drama, who stands in Florida, which is kind of it's a 2-year-old focused market, so I think that's a sign of what they expected him to throw.
She is a half-sister to a Grade 3 stakes-winning sprinter. Areyoutalkintome almost made $1 million, so there is some class in this pedigree. And as you mentioned, she did beat a next-out winner. Abaco Dream earned a 62 buyer when winning on dirt. The number 2 is Drina Chan, going out for Chad Brown, Javier Castellano by that stalwart turf stallion City Zip. And we're going to take a look at her career debut at Saratoga earlier this meet. She's a flashy-looking chestnut, and she's going to come from off the pace. And you're going to notice once she makes the lead, her ears just sort of pop up. She hops to her left lead and she says, "What am I supposed to do now? I've passed everybody."
Yeah, and she still continues on pretty well here through the lane. You see her continuing on strongly, striding out even though she's on the wrong lead and kind of looking around. So I do think that she'll improve off of that. I think she might want a little bit more ground in the future, but I think she certainly fits in spots like this. As you mentioned, that stalwart sire City Zip throws a good 2-year-old, throws a good turf horse, throws a little bit of everything.
The first 3 dams, all stakes winners going long, so you might be right about that additional distance. 2 of those dams, the first and third stakes winners on the turf. She's going to try Open Company, a New York bred. The number 2 is Drina Chan. Here's the morning line favorite, one of the 3 Ward-trained entrants, the 3 Shang Shang Shang, undefeated in 2 lifetime starts. Let's go back to Royal Ascot in that Group 2 Norfolk Stakes. She showed big speed, as most of Wesley Ward trained horses do, and she is so game in the stretch to stave off the challengers.
Very much so, and I think she's trained. That can be a taxing trip for horses, especially young horses. I think she's trained pretty forwardly since then. Her race at Royal Ascot coming back pretty good with horses emerging from that race. And boy, her young sire Shanghai Bobby, she's from his 2nd crop. He's really starting to emerge internationally. He has her in Europe. He's had some nice stakes winners in the U.S. and he's got a handful of Group 1 winners in South America from his first Southern Hemisphere crop.
Ton of speed on the bottom of this pedigree. This filly breezed in 9 and 4. She has high speed, and if she does run in this spot on Wednesday, I would expect her to be able to make the lead in the rail early, and she would loom the horse to beat after beating the boys overseas in Royal Ascot. Her uncoupled stablemate is the number 4 Chelsea Cloisters. Well, Chelsea Cloisters didn't have as much luck as Shang 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 over in Europe. I thought she ran pretty well in her most recent start in France. This is the Group 3 Prix du Bois. She is in the white silk. She made the lead. She's going to be close to the inner rail in the stretch, and I thought she fought on pretty well to lose by a length, but this was a pretty decent field.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm willing to give horses a mulligan when they go over to Royal Ascot. Of course, Wesley Ward has so much success over there, but it's such a tough meet. It's such a difficult thing to do well there, particularly when you consider the size of the fields, how different it is from American racing. So yeah, she was 11th in the Queen Mary, you know, and then stayed overseas to run that good second in the Group 3 in France that we just watched. You know, so she didn't have as much success as Shang Shang Shang, but I think, you know, the defeat there is certainly understandable. She's from a very good female family too. This is the family of Goodbye Halo and others. Goodbye Halo won the 1988 Kentucky Oaks and, you know, didn't get a lot of attention, but she finished third in the Breeders' Cup Distaff behind Personal Ensign, Winning Colors. She went on to be a nice broodmare. It's a really classy family.
And Wesley Ward, of course, excels with all 2-year-olds, but we have a positive formulator fact with these 2-year-olds returning from Europe and adding Lasix, 40% winners and a 2.5 ROI over the past 4 years. Expect them all to be ready, and if Shang 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 scratches, I would expect Chelsea Cloisters with her speed to be able to make the lead in this spot. The number 5 is Fightress, a $75,000 yearling making her turf debut. Now, she is a daughter of Tapizar, who wins 7% of the time with first turf runners, but there is a lot of turf on the bottom of this family and some speed as well.
Yeah, her dam is a half to a graded winner on the turf. She won her debut in an off-the-turf race at Churchill before finishing 7th in the Schuylerville. So the turf intent was there early on. They're kind of getting back to what looked like Plan A with her. And she's bred by Clear Sky Farm, who, of course, in recent years, they've turned out horses like Arrogate. They're a small program that really produces a high-quality horse. I always take note when I see them on the breeder line.
Really interesting pedigree, to be sure. Young Norm Cassie will send out Fightress. You mentioned the turf intent in the debut, just slightly overmatched in that Grade 3 Schuylerville in the first start against winners, and could prove a surprise package at 15-1 on the morning line. The number 6 is Elsa, and this is a Godolphin homebred by Animal Kingdom. Let's go back to this really sharp debut at Laurel on July the 20th. She is in, of course, the familiar Godolphin blue. She sat off the pace and she rallies to win it. She got a gigantic Timeform US rating for this race and a rock-solid 68 buyer. I like the fact that she sat off horses and finished. This might be a filly with a future.
Yeah, definitely. I really liked this debut for all the reasons you just mentioned. She's really powering on in the stretch there in a hand ride in the final yards. She's by Animal Kingdom, he's on fire with his 2-year-olds, with his young runners right now, several maiden winners in the last 2 weeks. And honestly, Animal Kingdom's so versatile. I really believe his best race was on turf in the Breeders' Cup Mile when he was runner-up behind Wise Dan off that injury layoff. So no surprise, really, that the Animal Kingdoms are running so well on turf. And this is a very active female family as well. It's the family of champion midshipmen, multiple Grade 1 winner Frosted. One of the classiest families going right now, I think.
Really classy pedigree, top connections, nice performance in the debut. You must respect the number 6 Elsa in Wednesday's Bolton Landing Stakes. The number 7 Question of the Day will be making her turf debut. She is by The Factor, and there is some turf in this pedigree. She's a half to a juvenile stakes-winning turf sprinter named Harbinger of Things, another half, another juvenile stakes-winning turf sprinter named A Lover's Question. So this dam has been very productive, and The Factor, we know, does very well with these young turf horses.
Yeah, definitely. The Factor, a son of successful international sire Warfront. Warfront also a very good juvenile sire. So the Factor is passing that ability on through the next generation, as well as his own speed. He was a very fast horse. Question of the Day, I think, should take to turf, especially considering that female family. And she's already won 2 of her 3 starts. She's got a little bit of seasoning on some of these.
Jose Ortiz takes the mount. That's got to be considered a good sign. We do have a rather negative formulator fact from Michael Trombetta, an excellent trainer. Over the past 5 years, last style winners moving from dirt to turf, only 4% winners and less than $1 on the return on investment. The 8 is Stillwater Cove. This is the 3rd of the Ward-trained fillies in this spot. Arad Ortiz takes the mount, and this horse just has a beautiful pedigree, a $45,000 buyback as a yearling, but this is just a classic Phipps family pedigree, the 4th dam, the Great Personal Ensign.
Yeah, and looking at the pedigree, I do think that maybe this is one who's going to want a little more distance down the line as well. Of course, you see this family and you think of it as, more of a dirt pedigree when you see Personal Ensign and the likes of those. But the family in recent years has produced horses like Belmont Derby winner Mr. Speaker. So it's definitely a turf line as well. Sire Quality Road, so versatile. And just like I said with Chelsea Cloisters, I'm willing to draw a line through that 13th place finish in the Albany at Royal Ascot. That's just such a tough meet to succeed at.
Really nice stakes race at the Spa on Wednesday. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. Who do you like?
You know what? It's so hard for us to handicap this race sitting here on Tuesday, Dan, kind of having to speculate as to what Wesley Ward's going to do with his trio. Should Shang 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 start, I think she would just be prohibitive. Chelsea Cloisters also would make a lot of sense in this spot. If you're playing around with other horses besides the Ward trio, I do like Elsa quite a bit. As I said, we like her debut win at Laurel. Animal Kingdom, his horses are just on fire right now. And I am going to take a bit of a look at Fightress at a price as well. As I said, I think the turf intent has been there with her all along.
I agree with you on Fightress. I certainly want to use her somewhere, at least underneath in single race exotic wagers. I'll assume Shang 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 runs on Friday. If she runs here, as you mentioned, she is obviously the horse to beat. I'll go with Chelsea Cloisters, however. I think she can wire this field, but I'll use Fightress, Elsa, and Drina Chan underneath in single race exotics. It's Wednesday's Spa Baby Race, the $100,000 Bolton Landing Stakes, presented by Spendthrift.